when you deploy services in Azure that need to communicate with the internet or external networks, you'll often need a public IP address. Azure provides you with flexible options to assign, manage, and scale public IPs, either as individual addresses or as IP address prefixes. Let's walk through both concepts so you can decide when and how to use them effectively. In Azure, a public IP address is used to allow inbound or outbound communication between your Azure resources and the internet or external services. You can assign a public IP to resources like virtual machines, Azure load balancers, application gateways, VPN gateways, and Azure firewalls. There are two types of IP allocation: dynamic. In this case, Azure assigns the IP from a pool when the resource starts. It may change if the resource is stopped and restarted. And static. In this case, you get a fixed IP address that doesn't change, ideal for DNS mapping, security whitelisting, or APIs. Azure supports two SKUs. Basic is simpler option, no zone resiliency, doesn't support advanced features like zone-aware services. And standard is recommended for production, supports zone redundancy, secure by default, and works well with load balancers and firewalls. A public IP prefix is a reserved block of consecutive public IP addresses that you can manage as a unit. Instead of provisioning single public IPs one at a time, you reserve a range like /30 or /28 and assign individual IPs from that block to your services. This is incredibly useful when you want predictable IP ranges for outbound traffic. You need to group public IPs by project, region, or service. You require IPs that remain with your subscription even if a resource is deleted. For example, if you reserve a /29 prefix, you get 8 IPs, 5 usable, and you can assign them individually to your firewalls, load balancers, or VM NICs, all while maintaining central control. In your Azure deployments, you will often need public IP addresses for services like application gateways or virtual machines behind NAT rules. In these cases, assigning a static public IP ensures stability and predictability, especially for DNS mappings and inbound rules. If you are deploying firewalls in an active-active setup, using a public IP prefix makes it easier to manage a group of IPs consistently across those instances. You will also find that using a prefix helps you reduce IP fragmentation and improve routing control, since the addresses are allocated from the same contiguous block. For best results, make sure you use static allocation for all your production workloads to avoid unexpected IP changes. Choose the standard SKU for your public IPs to take advantage of zone redundancy and enhanced security. If you need several public IPs, like for APIs, gateways, or backend services, go ahead and reserve a public IP prefix. This not only gives you predictable IP ranges, but also simplifies management across projects, regions, or workloads. And finally, be intentional about how you group those IPs. Use separate prefixes for front-end, back-end, or internal services to keep your design clean and scalable. So, what's your key takeaways? Public IP addresses in Azure give you the connectivity edge for your cloud workloads. Whether you are exposing a web app to users or enabling secure outbound traffic, knowing when to use a single public IP versus a public IP prefix gives you strategic control over routing, scaling, and resource management. Your IP strategy is a key part of your cloud network design. Use it wisely.